Okay, here we go. So, euthanasia is not just a debate you see on the news. It is all about you. Imagine that you're terminally ill. There is no cure. You know that the last weeks of your life will be filled with extreme and unrelenting pain, then death. Do you want to end your life that way? Many people do not have a clear understanding of what euthanasia is, yet alone an understanding of the current world debate. For the most concise description, an individual should look up the Oxford Dictionary definition, which states euthanasia it refers to the practice of intentionally ending life in order to relieve pain and suffering, and from the Greek meaning good death. There are two types of euthanasia, active and passive. Active is committing an act to end a life. Passive relates to medical professionals only, and whether or not they remove or withhold treatment. On the surface, this seems reasonable. No one wants another life to suffer or be in pain, especially if a certain outcome is death. Euthanasia provides a way to end extreme pain in terminally ill people. Why should a human being go through such extreme pain that will ultimately lead to death? There will be no advantage to sticking it out and enduring the pain. They will not be working towards recovery or a cure of that condition if that is causing the pain. No one should be forced to endure and face that kind of pain only to die. Some individuals may want to fight and feel everything life has to give them up until the end. Others may not. They should have that choice. You should have that choice. Medical science has conquered the gentle and peaceful deaths and left the humiliating and agonizing to run the relentless downhill course. The suffering of these individuals is not trivial and is not addressed by anything medical science has to offer. A recent example is Brittany Menard, who was 29 and she found out that she was going to die. In April 2014, she was diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor that would kill her in 6 months. It was incurable. She could have prolonged her life through full radiation treatment, but she would still die painfully with all those around her watched her deteriorate. This was not the way Brittany wanted to go. She was looking at a slow death marred with tremendous headaches, seizures, and memory loss. She chose to move from California to Oregon, where assisted suicide is legal. When her symptoms were accelerating, Brittany chose to die on November 1st, surrounded by her loved ones in her home in Portland. She died with dignity. When did you want this too? A survey by Elder Magazine reported 80% of respondents supported the right to die through physician-assisted suicide if faced with debilitating illness and if they are terminally ill and in pain. And 8 out of 10 people supported euthanasia, yet our laws do not reflect this. Active euthanasia is seen as a distinct act that leads to death. That act can be a lethal injection by another person, withholding food and water if the individual cannot feed themselves, or assistance in helping an individual end their life when facing a debilitating illness and death. One of the most well-known examples of active euthanasia is Dr. Kevorkian. In the 1990s, Time magazine reported that Dr. Jack Kevorkian designed a machine that would administer a lethal injection, which would allow the individual who wished to end their life to administer the lethal dose themselves. He assisted in obtaining the drugs and providing the machine. He did not perform the act of injecting the lethal dose. The individual wishing to die did. This machine brought euthanasia to the news. Society has had to decide if this was murder, assisted suicide, or only compassion. Ultimately, the courts did determine that it was active euthanasia in the case of Dr. Kevorkian, and it was against the law, which now are being overturned in many states. Passive euthanasia occurs when the patient dies because the medical professionals either don't do something necessary to keep the patient alive, or when they stop doing something that is keeping the patient alive. And passive euthanasia applies to medical professionals only. If a person has made a living will and has instructed that any life support equipment be removed after 30 days, if there is no brain activity and no improvement in their condition, is this euthanasia? The removal of the ventilator or other life-sustaining equipment is now an active move to ending that person's life. The doctor was only following instructions and the body progressed to death when the equipment was removed, so it was passive. Now, if that same situation occurs and the individual is conscious and is on the ventilator to sustain life for the rest of their life and wants the equipment removed, is that different? The conscious individual has instructed the doctor to remove the ventilator verbally or in writing if they are unable to speak for the course of their future care. This is considered active euthanasia because the person is conscious. According to Dr. Michael Manning in Euthanasia and Physician-Assisted Suicide, Killing or Caring, he states, when the same people are faced with debilitating illness, extreme pain, and inevitable death from that condition, they begin to see the benefits of euthanasia. We should all have a choice in deciding our care and how we choose to face death. Euthanasia is a solution for pain relief, quality of life, and dignity in death. Euthanasia should be an option given to a person who is looking at a difficult death. And why is passive euthanasia, such as withholding treatment or sustaining life equipment, legal and active euthanasia is not? Where is that distinction? Individuals should have the power over their own body and life when facing certain death. In the end, laws should be made so that individuals should have the opportunity to decide for themselves. An individual should be responsible to put in place their desires for their care if they're unable to make the decision in a living will. Euthanasia should be a choice for every human being. It can be regulated and restricted to protect those who make the choice for euthanasia and those who do not. You should have the power over your own body and life when facing certain death. You should have the right of death with dignity. Thank you.